Hey everybody! In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make the most adorable little DIY watercolor sketchbook using your gel press and this incredible paper that acts like leather, and you can even wash this paper. It's amazing. I'm going to tell you all about it. This is my little finished journal. And here's how it starts. So this amazing craft paper is extremely tough, comes in a bunch of different colors. I die cut it to make this little journal cover. But before I did that, I got it wet and crumpled it up to give it that leather texture that you see there. And after it's been wet, or after you've even washed it, you can wash it in your washing machine. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Then you can sew with it. You can die cut it like I've done here. They do recommend that if you're going to make a bag out of it with your sewing machine, that you sew with it while it's actually damp. But then because the surface is paper, you can also do all sorts of fun things like what I'm going to do today. So first I have this beautiful stencil that I am just going to pick up this little tentacle pattern. I'm going to use it as waves in the background for my little fish, but either way, it's a fun ocean theme. And because this paper is thick and it feels like leather, you'll have to treat it a bit differently than you do paper on your gel press, but it picks up all mediums beautifully, just like any craft paper would. I love that you can get this wet and change how soft the paper is. And the more that you wet it and crumple it up, the more malleable and soft it will be. The colors that they have are beautiful, but I wanted my color to come from paint for this little journal. So I'm using the craft version, but I'll link you to the colored and the craft versions of this paper below. Now, I had used this same die, which I'll also give you a link to make a similar watercolor journal, but I had made that out of this beautiful dark blue suede. We actually made them at my retreat. And I found that this paper actually works better with dies that score. This is a Big's die, because with the suede, because it was so much softer, it actually cut through the score lines on this die that allow for this little book to expand. So this paper works out much better for that. Now for the pickup prints, where I'm not getting that little texture from the stencil, I'm just taking the ghost print and just randomly putting it all over the inside of the journal. You won't see much of the inside of the journal while you're using it because I'm going to fill it up with pieces of folded watercolor paper after I add a little binding, but I didn't want it to just be plain either. I wanted it to coordinate with the outside of the journal. So it's just sort of an echo of what's going to happen on the cover. Now I'll just pick up the turquoise paint. It's actually teal, not turquoise. This is probably my favorite golden color. It's gorgeous. And then they also have this vat orange, and those are the two colors in my craft room, so I tend to use them together quite a bit. I call it my Hojo color scheme. So I'll use the vat orange to make some little fishies on the journal cover. Now the fish stencil is a 6x6 stencil, so I don't need to cover the whole plate. And you'll notice that I got my Big Daddy plate out today. I don't make a lot of videos with this plate because I like to have it permanently parked at the place where my sister and I gel print together a lot. But I did grab it for this video because this die cuts the journal cover to 12 inches long. Now here I'm just rolling up the journal cover just so I can randomly pick up some little orange fish here and there. And you just want to really press that, I keep wanting to say fabric. You want to press the paper that feels like fabric into wherever you want to pick up from the stencil. But you can see, even though I only got this wet once and crushed it a little bit, how it's still soft and flexible enough to pick up very detailed patterns like these adorable little fishies. So I'll just fill them in. Now I got a little extra paint, a little orange paint, that's what I was pointing to, from the outside of the stencil, but I'm going to make that into a critter too, because you're going to see what else you can do with this amazing paper. Look how pretty those two stencils look together. I just love those two colors together. If Golden ever stops making those two colors, I will actually die. So the ball is in your court, Golden. Keep me alive, please. Isn't that stencil pretty? I love that. So now I will just take the remaining wet paint up just on a scrap, and I'll clean this more thoroughly later, or not, which is my normal method because it makes for beautiful little accidental elements on your prints later. Now, because this is paper, it takes all other mediums beautifully, as I said, and especially my Pitt pens. It does not let the ink feather out into the paper, and I've talked about this before. Some papers will cause pens to bleed. It's a certain combination of paper and a certain combination of pen. But these are crisp and perfect on this amazing, amazing medium. So I hope you try this substrate in your gel printing. This is what it looks like when I'm done with my black and my white pen. This is what the inside looks like with folded watercolor paper. And this is what the little book looks like all closed up. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching.